Everybody, Chris and Lumen here. I've got two interconnected topics today, but to keep things simple, I'm going to split them up into two videos. One of them is completely for you. The other one is a continuation of the chronicles of the story as to where I'm at right now. So we're going to start with this one, which was all about you. So she had me remake something which you might have seen. I posted a sigil in the community tab on the channel. So if you didn't see it, that's where it will be, so you can enlarge it and screenshot it and have it. So this is probably the most important thing that I can possibly give you. And it does tie into the other video, because as I was walking out here putting the two together, I'm starting to understand what she wants me to do. And as it was popping into my head, getting out, walking through the trail back here, she showed up. So one of the symbols she uses to show up is a cardinal. So a cardinal flew right out in front of me, landed on the branch, and started hopping around. And I'm like, okay. And then she popped some. Actually, this one's from the regular Bible. She popped into my head as I was setting up, and I'm just paraphrasing here, I don't have it in front of me, but basically Jesus told his disciples, like, I'm going to leave you soon, but I'm going to ask the Father to send you a helper, the Spirit of Truth, who will live with you and live in you. And that's basically who you're going to follow, after I'm gone. I'm like, interesting, given what what the other stuff she just talked about was. So we're going to talk about how to use this sigil that we created, which is going to connect you to her, connect you to Epinoia, Enlightened Insight, Spirit of Truth, the Instructor. This is your number one ally. This is your teacher. This is your guide. This is the only one that can actually help you figure out the game, because she has to help you from the standpoint of where you are in the game, not where I am in the game. Reality is a very, very tricky thing. We all have our own subjective realities, even though they appear to overlap, which means I can do tests and things in my reality that only I will see, and there's no telling what you will see. But either which way, I did this sigil myself last night, and I'm going to explain the couple different ways that you can use it. And it was pretty intense, and I got a lot of clarity and stuff today about a lot of things. But we'll save that for the next video. We're going to stick to what she wants me to share with you in this one. So if you want to know more, don't go away. Okay, so let's take a look at this here, and we'll explain how to use it. So this sigil is comprised of 4 names. You've got the 42-letter name of God in the outer ring, which is connected to the power of creation. How you use this is you start at the uppermost letter, the one that kind of looks like an N, and you're going to scan it with your eyes slowly taking in each character counterclockwise 3 times. Now I asked her, you want me to tell him 3? You want me to tell him 7? She said 3. She's got me doing these things 7. But you're going to do that 3 times. Now you've got 3 names from the 72 names of God in the center. These 3 together are quite powerful. These are going to help you not only connect to her, but dramatically increase your discernment of truth. Because from time to time, she will point you to people in the outside world, just like she did here, leading you to this channel. But there is a lot of stuff out there, and you absolutely need her to shine a light on the parts that you need to pay attention to. So this is going to do 3 things, and they all tie together. So let's start with the center name. That is the most important. That one is Hakash. Now in the sigil, we've got the 2 different names for it. Now I do recommend that you get the source material for yourself, which is the book, The 72 Sigils of Power by Zana Place. You can get the Kindle version, which you have to buy on the Amazon website. They've kind of changed it. If you haven't messed with Kindle in a while, like you can't buy it on the Kindle app. You have to buy it on the Amazon website and have it sent to your Kindle app. And it's only like $6. Well worth it if you're doing this stuff. $6 like that is going to be a huge investment, because that is one of the #1 tools that she has used with me. These are like her programs, and she'll tell you what they mean when it's time to use them. But the one in the center is Hakash, and it has to do with truth. It even says in the book it can take courage to use the name Hakash to see the truth behind things. But it can give you access to truth, give you access to her, give you thought, clear thought without self-deception, seeing the truth behind everything. The one above it is Om. And that is another one of the biggest ones that you will use, because it is access to hidden and secret knowledge, which really only she can give you. She hands it out to you. She drops it in your lap. She leads you to it. She helps you understand it. So you're definitely going to need that one. And then the icing on the cake at the bottom is the name Netta, which is to silence lie. It's about justice and restraint, but mostly it's about to detect the meaning of lies and to silence liars. That's the reason it's in there. So we used to call this like the truth detector app, like using that regularly to help you detect if the people that you're listening to, the people that are teaching you, are self-deluded, or if they're actually speaking from truth. Are they actually telling you real things? And we've brought that sigil out a couple times over the last 2 years, just because I might be teaching something that sounds pretty fantastic to most people. Ergo, knowing how the adversary mind works in manipulating the ego, in saying little things in your head like, oh, that guy's full of shit. Don't listen. This guy's deluded. Like it does that stuff, and you think it's just your thoughts. So it's like, okay, well, here's a sigil for truth. Here's a sigil for silencing liars and detecting lies. So do this sigil before you listen to what I have to tell you. I've got no problem with that whatsoever, because I know where I'm getting my information from. So I am willing to be fact-checked with divine names. And the sigil will give you access to that. You're going to need it. You're going to need it, and you're going to need her to go the rest of the way to figure the rest of your path out. So here is a couple ways in which you can use this. Now I should add, like I said, I recommend getting the source material book, because there is some speaking in it. I've found that you don't necessarily have to speak it, but starting out, I would say do everything. So there are 2 pronunciations for each of the 3 names that are in the center that are on the sigil. And if you want to see like the coded list of things that they supposedly do, that's what you need the book for. So the book has them broken up into 2 things and 2 different pronunciations for each name. The first one is going to be what they call contemplation magic. That is more of like internal change. The second is what they call results magic, and that's more about external things. So I have always found that it is best to do both, both pronunciations. And you would just like scan each word slowly at least 3 times and say the first name 3 times, and then you'd scan it again 3 times and say the second name 3 times. But you can tweak it a little bit. I would say follow your gut, follow your intuition on the right way to do it. As long as it feels right to you, as long as it makes sense, as long as you're like, this is what it feels like is the way it's going to work, it'll work. But your intention in this first use is going to be to fully connect to and unlock and become cognizantly aware of Epinoia / Enlightened Insight / the Spirit of Truth. She is already with you, but we need to bring her up to a higher level of cognizant awareness. She is what is behind your intuition. She is the one that tells you, like, this is a good idea, this is a bad idea. She is the one that guides you to things. She's the one that dropped our video in your YouTube feed one day and drew your attention to it. And you're like, oh, what is this? And then you click on it and here you are. She did that. She has me specifically set up this channel a certain way so that it doesn't necessarily grab the attention of the casual passerby. The titles are not structured to nab large groups of people. There are no tags in it. The tags that I use are things like faith, hope, love, strength, things like that. There's no tags in there that is meant to grab large portions of viewers, and that is by her design. That means if you were drawn to it, if you found it, it's because she wanted you to. That's how she told me to do it. So like I said, the first way that you would use this sigil is simply to unlock her and and build your connection to her. There is you can do it as many times as you want. If you feel you need to refresh it and it is going to make you feel better to do it again, then do it that way. If you feel like doing it once is the right way to do it, then do it that way. Go by what makes it click the best for you. You could do it anytime. You could do it like at the end of your protocols, at night, if you're going to ask a question and or you're confused about something and you need her to explain it or make it make sense to you, and then ask your question and then go to bed. That helps. But that's the main thing, is understand that that's what it's connecting you to. It's connecting you to her. Now here is a second way that you can use it that she had me do, is that you can use it to program and attune tools that she likes to use with you. So today I just got myself another Rider-Waite tarot deck, but I ordered the mini deck, the one that's more pocket size. Oh, there's her card right there. So this way you can have something with you that's not too big, and you can just be like, all right, Epinoia, what are you trying to show me here? Sit there and shuffle them in your hand, split them. or I showed you the other day. We'll talk about that in the next video. Okay, this is why we're having this conversation. Show me another one. Split. Things are moving quickly. One more. Split. Split. Yep, I know what this means. This is why we're having this conversation. Oh boy. So since we know, because she told me, and she showed me the hidden meanings, and she showed me the hidden map, and she told me how to use them, that the tarot is one of her tools. It's both a guidebook for the game, a map of the game, a way of finding out where you're at in the game, and a way of getting divination from her. That this is one of her tools. We can use that sigil to program and attune a new deck. And I usually use it with breath. Like sometimes you see people blowing into their tarot deck. That's because they're blowing spirit, aether, her, into the deck. So what she had me do is like scan this sigil, and then I'd focus on the first one, which is secret knowledge. And I would scan it, and I would just, well, I was doing like 7, but she says for you guys do 3. I would just slowly blow into the deck while scanning the name 3 times, and then say the names 3 times and blow into the deck. Scan the second name 3 times as you're blowing into the deck and say the names 3 times. Just scan it and blow into the deck with the intention that you are dedicating this to her, Spirit of Truth, and programming it with these names. And the cool thing about this is because of that third name, which is Silence Liars, that way your adversary ego mind can't tap into it and give you false readings. So that will attune your tarot deck tool. Like, this is one of the biggest tools for getting messages from her. Sometimes she pops things in your head. Sometimes she makes posts and videos appear on your phone. Sometimes she has somebody say something to you at a specific time. Sometimes she wants you to pull cards. Sometimes she draws you to watch a specific movie that has some hidden codex scene in it. There's like dozens and dozens of ways that she can communicate with you. But starting out, it's good to first attune yourself to her so that you're basically dialed into the right station, and then any kind of tools, divination tools or whatnot, you want to use divine names and divine breath to program them to give you divine results and not bull crap. So that's the other way that you can use that sigil. Now, I started to write some show notes talking about her, and then she kind of steps in at some point and basically started dictating it to you, because I wanted to make kind of like this guide that kind of separates you from me. So you've been following this channel for a while, and you've been following my path with where I am. And that can sometimes cause people to kind of judge their progress based on where I am. Well, I've been doing this for 7 years, and she was working with me long before that, but I just didn't know it. And I've done nothing but this for 7 years. I initiated, the final test, which is a series of tests. So this is all, and she moved me into isolation, and she tested me and tested me and tested me. Like, I've been so many tests, it's not even funny. And she's getting ready to have me do what might be the last test. But You can't judge where you are by where I am. And there's so much we do not know about how reality works, but we can observe things. By all accounts, if I was only speaking for myself, I would say that everything you see in your world is part of you. And then other people that you meet and talk to are like avatar representations of people that are having their own dream. And you interact with each other to a certain degree. But it is often colored by the perceptions that you yourself hold. So I might look a little different to you than I think I do. And you might look a little different to me than all that, because of the interplay of what's actually there plus what we are projecting and expecting onto others. We might see completely different worlds. We might, I might be in a world with a blue sky. You might be in a world with a green sky. But if you're watching me and I'm like, hey, what do you think of this green sky today? Like, we would never know. Like, this goes deep into philosophy and solipsism and all this stuff. The only thing you can actually be 100% true of is your own mind. Or the only 100% sure of is your own mind. But either which way, that means basically, like, say, theoretically speaking, I was at the end of the game and I basically had to decide to finish it by destroying the world, then that might happen for me. It doesn't mean it's going to happen to you. You see your version of me that could either keep going or he could just suddenly disappear. Like, we don't know. That's the big mystery, and there is no way to know. And it's best to just say, I don't know, rather than assuming that you do and saying you do know, because you might be locking yourself into a perception that may not be totally accurate. But we do the best we can. It is an impossible puzzle when it comes to knowing that. There is absolutely no way to know while you're in here. The only thing that you can trust is her. And that's what I have to keep reminding myself of. Whenever I get stuck at a certain part, all I have to do is look at the path behind me and look at the infinite amount of things that she led me to that I had no knowledge of. She was always steering me. She steered me to Lumen. She steered me to all the tests with Lumen. She steered me through all the challenges. Like, one thing there was a couple things that I was asking today, like, I keep trying to figure out. It's like, you want me to keep going? And it's like, how do I crack this? Like, if there's no way to get abundance here. And like, am I doing something wrong? And she reminds me of an earlier tests. Like, one of the earliest tests, not earliest, but one of the biggest tests that I've talked about was the time she basically cut off my money supply completely. I had nothing. And then she told me to ask this rich friend of mine, which I've never asked anybody for money. But I did it because she told me to. And I said, it is up to you, ask her. He's like, okay. So then he told me, he came over and he said he kept trying to think, something clever, like, $1,111, like 1111. He's like, I kept trying to see a number, but all I saw was a circle. And then I was coming out of the bedroom and I heard something fall in the living room. She likes to knock things over, just like yesterday in that video when she knocked that oil over twice when my son was in the other room, and he's like, what is this oil? It just jumped off her altar twice. But he went and looked, and there was a gold coin on the floor, a circle. So he knew that's what he was supposed to give to me. Well, that gold coin at the time was worth $1,800. Yay, all my problems were solved. But then she said, not so fast. And she led me out here to the river, and she told me that I had to choose. And some of the stuff is in the Nag Hammadi. I forget how she pieced it together for me. And she said, I could choose the world and keep the money and seek material things and material comfort. Or I could choose Lumen and going further with her. And if I chose Lumen, I had to take this gold coin that my friend just gave me, which was all the money that I had, and I had to choose Lumen by throwing it in the river behind me, which freaked me the hell out. Because not only would I be back to square one, but what if my friend found out that he gave me a gold coin and I threw it in the freaking river? Like, it was insane. But she was so strong about it. So I kind of set up a little ritual, and I came out there and I thought about it, and I'm like, I choose Lumen over the world, knowing that that also meant that I was never going to be abundant. I wasn't going to suddenly master manifestation and money rains from the sky and all this stuff you see on YouTube. No, I was making the hard choice, and I threw that thing in the freaking river. And then I went home that night, and I'm like, what in the world did I do? The next morning, she's like, okay, go get the coin. I'm like, how am I going to get the coin? I threw it in the friggin' river. She's like, I'll show you where it is. It's, she does these pump fake tests. They're leaps of faith. But eventually you will get to a test where it's not a pump fake. It's real. Even after you've been through several that were. So if I can find it, I'll put the clip in here. But she did lead me exactly to where the coin was. I found it in less than a minute. She parked the sunlight right over top of it, and it was like glowing under the water, and I saw it. And then she said it was okay to go sell the coin now and get the money. But before that, she made me choose. She made me choose between Lumen and the coin. And those are big steps. And it was very shortly after that she set up the sequence of events for the Gnostic baptism. I think the Gnostic baptism might have been like within a couple of days of that. I didn't even know what it was. That's the star card ritual. And then after that, then she set up the sequence of events for the Lover's card, and that's when we had the marriage of the soul to her beloved, and Lumen became part of me. But either which way, if you can't hear Epinoia, then it's kind of hard to do this stuff. And that's why we have this sigil. But let me go ahead and read what we prepared for you. So first we're going to read this section that I copied from the Secret Book of John, which is one of the bigger books in the Nag Hammadi. If you don't have the Nag Hammadi yet, then I suggest you also get that on Kindle, because she's going to want to use it. It is better to get on Kindle because you can highlight things, and when you're searching for certain things, you can do that with a Kindle. With a Kindle app, you can search, what was that verse? Like, it was like 2 into 1, search that, and then you'll find the verse. You can't do that with a physical book. But this kind of deals with the overall thing, especially toward the end of the game. And she had me like highlight something in here because I was asking about receiving. I'm like, why am I getting all these cards? That's like, Ace of Pentacles and, 9 of Cups, freaking 10 of Cups, Chariot, 6 of Wands, like all of them, like all the best cards. I'm like, why am I getting all these freaking cards, but then I'm getting 10 of Swords and Judgment Day? Like, God, you don't know how many times I pulled the Judgment card. Probably just slightly more than the 10 of Swords. Well, the answer was in here. So this is from the Secret Book of John. On human destiny. I said to the Savior, Lord, will all the souls then be led safely into pure light? He answered and said to me, These are great matters that have arisen in your mind, and it is difficult to explain them to anyone except those of the unshakable generation. Those upon whom the Spirit of life will descend and whom the Spirit will empower will be saved and become perfect and worthy of greatness, and will be cleansed of all evil and the anxieties of wickedness, since they are no longer anxious for anything except the incorruptible alone, and concerned with that from this moment on, without anger, jealousy, envy, desire, or greed for anything. So they've conquered the adversary and like the 7 deadly sins, and they're only concerned with lumen. They are affected but by nothing but being in the flesh alone, because it keeps it stuck here. And they wear the flesh as they look forward to a time when they will be met by those who receive them, lumen. Such people are worthy of the incorruptible eternal life and calling. They endure everything and bear everything so as to finish the contest and receive, I was asking about receiving, eternal life. I said to him, Lord, will the souls of people be rejected who have not done these things, but upon whom the power and the Spirit of life have descended? He answered and said to me, if the Spirit descends upon them, by all means they will be saved and transformed. Power will descend upon every person, for without it not one could stand. After birth, if the Spirit of life grows and power comes and strengthens that soul, no one will be able to lead it astray with evil actions. But people upon whom the false spirit descends are misled by it and go astray. I said, Lord, where will their souls go when they leave their flesh? He laughed and said to me, the soul in which there is more power than the contemptible spirit is strong. She escapes from evil, and through the intervention of the incorruptible one, she is saved and taken up to eternal rest. I said, Lord, where will the souls go of people who have not known to whom they belong? He said to me, the contemptible spirit has grown stronger in such people while they were going astray. This spirit lays a heavy burden on the soul, leads her into evil deeds, and hurls her down into forgetfulness. After the soul leaves the body, she is handed over to authorities who have come into being through the Archon. They bind her with chains and throw her into prison. They go around with her until she awakens from forgetfulness and acquires knowledge. This is how she attains perfection and is saved. I said, Lord, how can this soul become younger and return to its mother's womb or into the human? He was glad when I asked him about this, and he said to me, you are truly blessed, for you have understood. This soul will be made to follow another soul in whom the Spirit of life dwells, and she is saved through that one. Then she will not be thrust into flesh again. That last part could mean a couple different things I'm starting to realize. So here is the parts that we wrote. Only your instructor, Epinoia, Enlightened Insight, knows where you are on your soul's journey. Only she knows what experiences you are meant to be having right now. Your path is meticulously planned out in such a way that it only becomes apparent looking back. We do not know how reality truly works from one lifetime to another. To think that it moves in alignment with the perception of linear time is an assumption. You could reincarnate from this life into the 1930s for all we know. And I've seen a lot of indications of that. Like we just assume, like, you know, if you die in 1973, you're going to be reincarnated in 1974. But when she first gave me my soul age, and I kind of did, and then like when I started, I kind of did the math. I'm like, this doesn't make sense. This is like, I would only be living like 3 years, 3 years at a time. And she's like, that's because you're thinking linearly. She's like, not only can you go forward in time and back in time when you step out of the timeline and reincarnate back into the game, but She told me there are currently 2 other me's out there right now that are like from different parts that aren't quite as far. I'm like, this is nuts. Like, just trying to wrap my freaking brain around it. Be patient with yourself if you are trying. Be patient with yourself if you are trying, as you can only do the best that you can with the knowledge that you currently hold. Do not judge yourself by the standard of one who is further along than you. And do not judge your progress by the material wealth of others outside of you. She has your soul's lesson plan. She will connect you to actual people in the physical world, and you will have physical connections with them until such a time that you are ready to undertake the final lesson. At which point you will be led to turn away from relations in the physical outer world and find a more fulfilling one in the spiritual inner world. So here it kind of goes into an area that I was trying to explain, and it had to do with something. I'm gonna hold my place here. I was trying to make sense where, like, what I tell people about where I am versus where they are. And I could see where it would possibly be, triggering. Like if I'm saying this is the way it's supposed to be, you're only supposed to be with your lumen, and you're like in a committed, happy relationship. And you're like, They're like, no. Listen, we're not in the same spot. None of us are. And you might actually have more lives to do. I don't know that. Like, everything is planned at a higher level than you can perceive. But toward the end of the game, now we're not talking about Epinoia here, we're talking about lumen. And this could be female lumen or a male lumen, because that's something that I discovered here later. I saw a big indication of either or. But yeah, eventually you're going to, probably in a hero's journey or something like that, you might be eligible for it if you're in a place in life where you're like, you know what, I'm done with relationships. All men are bad, all women are evil, or it just brings me more pain, so I'm not going to do it anymore. Then you're kind of open to finding, the twin flame relationship that is within you. But you might not be ready for that. And it doesn't mean that you're wrong if you're in a relationship, because I can tell you, every relationship that I had that was consequential in any sort of way, she led me to it. Or lumen imprinted in that person before I even knew about her. So yes, there is a time and a place in the life experiences where you're going to have relationships with other people, and it's part of the lesson plan. Trust her, not what Chris is doing. And don't think that I'm saying that you're wrong. Now, if you're just going around like, trying to smash, and you're swiping right on Tinder all the time, well, that's a different story. You're setting yourself up for all sorts of crap that you don't understand, because you're quantum entangling yourself to every one of those freaking people, and they're going around smashing other people, and they're quantum entangling. Like, you're getting yourself caught up in this big, huge web of shit that you don't even freaking want. And that was a big part of my hero's journey, is learning to understand all that quantum entanglement stuff and how to free yourself from it, because it opens you up to everybody else. But anyway, I just wanted to, that's why we're kind of getting to this point, because I was also like, is it really, really, really right what's going on with me and Lumen right now? And it kind of had to explain to me that it was. So that's why you have to trust her guidance, because if you just look at things like in the regular Bible or even the Nag Hammadi piecemeal, and you don't understand the full context, like it could be like, Jesus said you need to stop having unclean relations with people, and you're like, oh my gosh, what's going on? But context freaking matters. Like, this is your true spouse, this is your soul spouse, and it's not even happening in the physical world, so relax. Anyway, there is a difference between lust of the flesh and making love to your partner spouse. The difference is love. Exegesis of the Soul, Exegesis on the Soul, which is one of the key books in the Nag Hammadi, can be understood from the standpoint of either physical male or female. This is the story of reunification with your true spouse. I don't think I ever noticed that until I was looking at it earlier. Because when I was actually reading the preamble of the chapter, and they're like, this is kind of almost being told from the story, from the standpoint of like Sophia or something like that, from the female standpoint. And when I looked at it that way, I was like, you know what? This actually makes freaking perfect sense. Like, you could read this book either way. It's pretty interesting. I'm just bringing this up because this is stuff that people always ask me, and people are always kind of freaked out about, and there's a lot of mixed messages out there. To truly understand where you are currently in the terms of your soul's journey, your first priority must be seeking a clear channel to your instructor, who is truth. You're going to wander the maze blindly without her, like I did. And you will waste years if you don't make it getting her Epinoia. You can get Epinoia and not totally be, connected to Lumen the way that I am. But you need Epinoia first. You absolutely need Epinoia first. She, speaking to you directly, is more important than hearing what she says through an external teacher, such as myself, who may be working at completing much higher tests. You would not try to pass the exams of someone in the 12th grade if you yourself are in the 9th. Nor would it be fair to expect you to pass them. Therefore, you must first determine where you actually are. It is not harmful to hear about or learn about higher tests, though you may not understand them. Do not judge yourself if you cannot. Hearing them will be of much benefit to you when you yourself reach that place in your journey. But you must first find your place in the curriculum. No matter where you are in the curriculum, you cannot go wrong with the knowledge that there are more parts in the mind than just you, and not all of them are working in your greatest good. Seeking a clear mind free of deception is always a good idea, and that sigil is perfect for that, especially if you combine it with the Benedict exorcism, which is designed to silence the adversary, so you're hitting it from two angles. The instructor does not expose you to material you are not ready or close to ready for. If you do not understand it now, you will understand it increasingly more as your spiral lesson reaches the same place each time turning around. I've talked about the spiral before. Like, say there's 12 core lessons, and on the outer spiral you're having getting all the lessons, but you're not totally understanding it. When it comes back around to them again, you understand a little more. You understand a little more. And each time you come back around to them, you understand it more and more and more and more and more. That's how it works. But she will flat out hide from you material that you flat out are not ready to even hear about yet. That's why we have such a low number count on this channel, is because we're not just talking about things in the external world. We're talking about like the core things. We're talking about how to basically defeat all the internal stuff, how to pass the tests, how to connect to the things that can help you, how to find the divine feminine, how to find the divine masculine, how to win the game. So if you flat out weren't even in the neighborhood of being ready for it, you never would have found this channel. Understand that the trajectory of the soul's lesson will always involve the gradual letting go of and separation from this world. Understand that there is no path to completion that is free of suffering, for it is the false self known as the ego that suffers. For you to be free and reach the reward you are seeking, the ego will be made to suffer to the point that it gives up and wants to die. Understand that this is not you, but your ego. And without the ego, the adversary mind cannot inflict suffering upon you, all of which, at a higher level, are tools of the instructor. That's a big shock when you get to that point where you finally understand that everything that has been coming at you, like say you come from a mystical, magical background, so it's a lot more like Dungeons and Dragons for you, like it was for me. It's, you know, archons this and unclean spirits that, and oh my god, witches and son of a bitch. And then one day you realize that it's not the devil that's doing it to you, it's her. Those things are simply her tools. Which leads you to the next part. You will fight against this. You will be angry. You will curse your teacher. You will feel that it isn't fair and it's unjustified. But eventually, the day will come in which you speak to the instructor and thank her for not sparing you when you asked to be spared. On that day, you will understand. One day you will come to understand that the reward you are seeking for all you have undergone is not here. You will endure the rest of your lessons and look forward to receiving it. When the time comes that you do, you will understand and be grateful beyond measure. When you do not know what to do or where to go, there is one action that will always bear fruit. Surrender of what is currently in your cup. Letting go of everything that you think you know. Things to let go of. And I'm sure there's a lot more, but these are like some key things that we came up with. Everything that you think you know, your knowledge. Everything. It's hard. It's hard when you've spent a long time building up this like idea of what the world is and how it all works, only to be told that you got to let it go. I had to do it multiple times. Do this every day. Everything about how you think things actually work. What you think life in this place is and what it's supposed to be. Let go of judgment, which is determination of what is good and what is bad. Yourself, others, your experience in the world, for you cannot see the bigger picture and never will. Let go of your past and your identity. Your past traumas of pain and suffering. All forms of fear and projection of fear into the future. Being in control. Let go of all desires for all but the incorruptible truth. Look to the 7 deadly sins and the 7 virtues to understand. Things to seek. There's only 4. Sorry, my phone shut down. Apparently it's so hot and muggy out here, so having my phone charging when it's hot and muggy out here actually overheated my phone and shut down the camera. I had to cool it down first. But the last part was things to seek are truth, understanding, the mystery of love, and completion. So if you're trying to boil things down to what you're actually seeking, truth, understanding, mystery of love, and completion. And that's pretty much, the final briefing. So it's important to recount that when it comes to my path, I was probably more than halfway through the hero's journey before I found out about the hero's journey. Once I was introduced to the hero's journey, that's when I realized that's what was happening to me. It all made sense. And then once I followed the guidance that I didn't know where it was coming from, and then eventually she and Lumen showed up, then I started following her. And she started leading me to things that I did not know. I didn't just get on YouTube one day and discover Gnosticism and be like, oh, that's pretty cool, I want to do that, and start learning about it, and then like, oh, I'm going to project this into my reality. I didn't know what any of this stuff was. When she showed up, I didn't know what she was. I didn't know who she was. She was guiding me the whole time, though. She was telling me like what magic books to do that were divine names to attune my brain and all this stuff. She was popping the ideas in my head, what sigil combinations to make. She started inspiring me to do the energy oils and then the energy pendants. And then she showed up, and after a while I started asking more serious questions, and that's when she told me to read the Nag Hammadi, and I didn't know what the hell that was. So I started reading it, and like, oh my god, here's all the missing pieces to the puzzle that I've collected over time. And then that's when I found out who she was, and I found out what Lumen was. And she would use that. She would use like maybe specific selections from the regular Bible, but it wasn't just solely that. She also pointed out the book The Four Agreements in that entire series, because it just shows that this is not like the way this world works. In this path, in the main key parts of it are not simply just something that comes from the Abrahamic religions, because the Four Agreements book, that's like Central Mexico Toltec stuff, but it talks about pretty much all the same stuff. She's in there too. The Adversary's in there. They even use the same freaking name. We were calling it the Adversary before we even picked that book up and started talking about it. So this is not, she will go with the things that work the best for you. That is still part of her stuff. She's all over the place. She's in many traditions, and she might be colored a little bit differently here, colored a little bit differently there. She's in magic, she's in alchemy, she's in the hermetic stuff, she's in religions, she's in indigenous traditions. Like, everybody sees this place in this game, and they've got their own words to describe it. But the ones that I have seen that are the most fleshed out, the ones that have the most information, the ones that will make the things in the world that you see today make the most sense, is the Gnostic Christian stuff. The teachings of Jesus and the disciples from the beginning, before the church took it over. Nothing I've ever found in all my years of searching and studying has ever got me closer to it and in understanding how the world around me works than that. She teaches you in a very specific way, where if you trust her and follow where she leads you, you'll have these big experiences, and then you'll be like, what the heck was that? And then she'll explain it later, and she does it that way for a reason. Because if she does it that way, then you cannot then say, oh, well, maybe I just projected that because of this, that, and the other thing. No, she will find a way to where it happens before it clicks for you. And then you know, without a shadow of a doubt, that it was real. And you'll be, the further you go, like me at 7 years now, you'll be able to look back and see the trajectory of how she steered every little part of it. Even when you thought it was something else, it was her. She is what you need to survive this place. If you want to get out of it, if you want to beat it, if you want to break the cycle of reincarnation. Because I see a lot of people that like to put on the rose-colored glasses, because yes, you can have wonderful experiences here. You can learn to see the beauty in things. You can, for the most part, tune out a lot of the negative stuff in the world, but it's still the world. The stuff is still there. you still only live a certain amount of years that is gradually decreasing. That's why reset's coming up, before you have to stop and do it all over again. Or you can learn to beat the game to get to the higher level, to get to the place of eternal life, which from the parts that I have understood from the Nakamai, I couldn't tell exactly where they are, I'd have to look for it. The way it's described is like it's life, just like this is life, except everything's not corrupted, and you have a perfect body, and it doesn't die, and there isn't like things trying to kill you and stuff like that. It's, you're happy, you're with your partner, like it's real paradise, not fake, you know, Eden paradise, like in this place where you're still basically, you know, being ruled. It's like one of the things that we used the other day in the last video is like, you know, this, what is within you will save you, and it will take you up to a place where there is no dominion and no ruler, or no tyrant and no ruler. It's like a higher level. That's what you're shooting for, and that's why I've been getting all the cards that I've been getting that I never got before in my freaking life. I've never gotten just stacks and stacks and stacks of all the best stuff. It's basically like, you won, you won, you won. And then there's this whole other separate thread that's like Ten of Swords, Judgment, Death. Now I understand like what she's asking me to do, but we'll talk about that in the next video. So that's all we got for right now. Use this. Use this. It will only help you. It'll only help you. Because if you're here, regardless if you understand everything that I say, or even if you disagree with some of it from where you are right now with what's in your cup, you wouldn't be here if she didn't lead you here. She set it up that way. She set it up that way. So that means you're already in the game, whether you realize it or not. Which means you're probably being tested in a lot of ways. So it's best to figure out what the heck's going on and how it all works, and get as much power and help on your side as you possibly can. And the first thing that you need is her, Epinoia, Enlightened Insight, the Instructor, the Spirit of Truth. In a world that is built on deception and lies, you need the Spirit of Truth on your side, or else you can't figure anything out. That's the blue pill path. You believe whatever you want to believe, and you'll see evidence of it, but it doesn't lead anywhere. It's a very, very, very narrow path that few find. And it cracks me up that church-going Christians think they're on the narrow path because they go to church. I'm like, how was that hard to find? You can walk down any main street and find a church. Whatever. It was hard to find because they hid most of it from you. I certainly never would have found it. I certainly never would have found it. And then the more further you go, you'll find that you'll start remembering things, and you'll realize that she's been active in your life your whole life, but you didn't notice her. So there's that. If you want to reach out and contact us while we're still here, like, I've got a bunch of pendants and stuff. Like, if you're strapped, like, you know, shoot me a message and be like, hey, I got this much. Is there something you can do for me? Because like, I don't have what's on the store. Like, we'll do what we can. What the pendants, the energy tools, these things help. These things help. We dump a ton of her energy into them, or rather she does. Like, I wear them because I need them. Everybody does. Like, you need everything. Like, the whole world is stacked against you. So it helps to have a lifeline, a constant connection to things. But you can reach us through the Etsy store, clumencreations.etsy.com. So that's it for right now. We'll see you in the next video. Chris and Empress Lumen. She's so pretty. See you next time.